You have to get right onto it. I gave you a coaster there.
We're about to go on.
Okay, there you go. So welcome back, everyone. I am so excited about bringing on my next guest. He's a newbie and he's a little nervous, so guess what? I get a little nervous when they are nervous. I have with me Greg Sarlo, and he's the owner of EverCare Placement. Welcome to the show. I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think you make it easy to be on the air here.
Well, thank you.
But I got into the senior care industry about 6 years ago. I moved out to Arizona to be closer to my grandparents and noticed a huge need for, concierge type of care, real resources where people could connect trusted vetted resources. And got a parent company called Senior Connection. That's a long story in itself. We'll maybe save that for another time. But in the senior care industry, placement and care planning and care navigation was just a huge topic and a huge need. So we developed a company called EVERCARE Placement. And EVERCARE Placement specializes in navigating the complexities of next step decisions, transitional care, right, assisted living, memory care, all of those things in between, right? So we've got a statewide organization. We've got a registered nurse on our team, a master social worker, and all our agents are certified dementia practitioners. So we're well equipped and ready to help and support and navigate families in Arizona.
I think it's a real important subject, and I think anyone who has a loved one who, especially who might be having maybe in the hospital right now.
Sure.
I told you before you came on that I've experienced something like this before, and a lot of people do something that is probably not the best thing in the world to do, and I'm going to do this on purpose with you, and I'm going to ask you a question that's not on here so that you have to talk to me from your heart, okay?
Okay.
So, what happens when somebody doesn't have a plan in place, which we're going to talk a bit about that, and all of a sudden you get that call, it's a last minute, and they are scurrying to find what they're going to do for their parents?
Well, I will tell you that probably 7 out of the 10 calls in the families that we work with are exactly just that, right? It's a crisis, right? It's an emergency situation. It's families that are in the hospital being told that mom or dad can't go home. It's not safe for them. They need to find alternative options, right? And there's a lot of complexities behind that. But in those moments, we're having to make rushed decisions rather than, fully prepared decisions. Now we're experts in navigating that, right? So we've got great resources and we absolutely can coordinate that. But now you're looking at, extra financial considerations, right? Things maybe cost more. You've got less options. You really don't have a choice. And the family didn't really make the decision. They were forced to make the decision, right? We can make that as delicate as possible, but it's still in the middle of something so traumatic. It's the last thing that you want to have to focus on is making those types of decisions. So having a care plan in place it's what you need.
It's imperative. Problem is that everybody thinks it's not going to happen to me, or I'll deal with that when. Well, let me explain to you. You do need to have somebody, and this is a no-cost service to you. So it really just makes sense to call them, talk to them, have that consultation. What do? You usually go into the home and do an assessment, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we meet people where they're at, right? So sometimes it could be, a family member that's out of state and their loved one is locally here, and maybe we're doing things virtually. It could be meeting with families at the hospital, at home, wherever they're comfortable. Coffee shops, we've met families at parks, just wherever families are comfortable.
Now the phone number to call them is 480-809-9908. The website is goevercare.com. No cost service to you, and he's statewide. So what is the biggest mistake that families make when trying to find senior living on their own?
I think it's not really understanding the complexities with navigating that, because it's not just so much about what the chandelier looks like and the nameplate on the wall, and it might look pretty and smell clean, and all those things are important, but there's a lot more behind that, right? The caregiver to staff, or the caregiver ratio to the residents, right? That's important. The longevity of leadership in a community, right? That says a lot, right? What happens when somebody falls at 2:00 in the morning, right? That chandelier is not going to be important. So what's their scenario, right? What's their situation? What does that look like, right? So there's back end questions, right? So having an understanding of that, checking Department of Health, records, right? Having access to look at some of that stuff, really, really important. And you can do that on your own as an individual. However, when you put your information in online, a lot of companies will just aggregate your data out and they'll farm it out to salespeople. Nothing wrong with those salespeople, but they're hyper-focused on one specific option. Kind of the way that I would probably liken it to is maybe like a broker for Medicare, right? Instead of working with somebody who just works for a specific company, they maybe represent many of them so they can customize something that fits for the real needs and budget and all the things that are important for families.
You do all the tours, you're all checking them out all the time, and when you take a family, that's what you do with them. You're going to also know right away, probably when you sit down and just meet with that person, you probably have people in mind that are, places in mind that will probably be good for them because right? You just know them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part
of
what
business.
It's our business. We're in the field all day, every day. We're meeting professionals. We know what's happening behind the scenes. We know what happens most of the time before it even hits, state systems and things of that nature. So we can help navigate that, save people really, quite honestly, a lot of time and potentially tens of thousands of dollars. And, to put it, a little bluntly, it can be detrimental to somebody's health to misplace somebody. You're not just helping somebody find a place to live. It's somebody's care, right? It's a lot more that goes into that, right? It's livelihood.
The website is goevercare.com and the phone number is 480-809-9908. So when a hospital or rehab is pushing for discharge, what rights do families actually have?
Well, the important thing is, and I like talking about this, and I actually just had this conversation with a family late yesterday evening, rushed to the hospital, and slowing things down is an important thing, right? So whenever you've got decisions that need to be made, those case managers and discharge teams, they're just doing their job, right? They've got a lot of stuff on their plate. Their job is to, to continue to support the need, right? They're triaging, they're moving people through. You have rights to slow things down. What does it look like if we waited another 24 to 48 hours, right? That's a question I would ask. If there's no safe discharge, they can't transition you out. They're not allowed to do that. And then in some cases, through Medicare, you have the right to appeal. So there's an appeal process. So there's certain things that you can say, but one of the main things that I would say if you're ever faced with that situation and somebody's trying to move you through the hospital process and discharge a loved one and you don't have a safe place to discharge. Just because you've got a home and you can care for mom or dad or your loved one doesn't mean that you should, because in a lot of cases that's not the best scenario for the person caring for them. I tell you a quick fact. Over 40% of, and this is through AARP, and I keep the numbers right. Some people say 30%, some people say upwards of 60, but 30 to 60% of people that are caring for a loved one that has cognition issues like dementia or Alzheimer's will pass away before those that they're caring for.
Well, I was just going to say, and we have less than 2 minutes, I hate these go fast, is that my mother passed away 4 days after she came home because of the rehab that pushed her out. It was not here in this state, but they do. And what people don't know is Medicare doesn't last forever. There's things that happen that you don't know about. So that's why it's also good to get these things placed and planned in place so that you know in advance where to go and who to call. His phone number is 480-809-9908. It's goevercare.com. It is a no-cost service to you. So real quickly, just so that we can get this to the end, because I'm sorry, I don't even know what to ask you here. We have so much. What's the difference between assisted living, memory care, and group homes, and how do you know which one is right? Less than a minute.
I don't think we got a minute to talk about that. But you know what I would like to say is if your audience felt some value in this and would like would like to have this conversation, I'd be happy to come back. Love to educate, talk on these topics.
I think it's so
and
important.
Really pick that apart and help people understand, kind of behind the curtain, things that maybe people don't talk about in the industry.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
there's so much that people don't know about. What's your final words?
I think the final words would be, and the message would be, to set a care plan. You might not need assisted living, you might not even be thinking that's going to be an option for you or a loved one. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the direction we're even going to go in, but having a plan, having something to know if a crisis happens, that's going to be your important step. So create that plan, have a conversation, we'd be happy to guide you.
Give them a call at 480-809-9908. Check them out on the website. It's goevercare.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a little bit. Now, this is what we call our hard break. So just a minute. Did you like it? I know.
Are you okay?
Yeah.